Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and lawyer streamer, and today we're going to be doing an update on what is happening in the world of GenAI. There is so much to go over that we're not even going to go over everything that I've seen since the last time stuff has happened, but there have been some major updates. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lemoy, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in your creative genius. It is your work. Just because I give you a prompt doesn't mean I am the writer. You're the creative. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover to the Fresh Meat feature, that first chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. And there's also, theoretically, if you want me to review your entire book, the only way for that to happen right now is on the Discord. There is a place to submit your book, and eventually when I am reading books from users' submissions, that's where I will go to grab some. So, but you got to prepare yourself for whatever, If I like it, if I don't like it, you're going to hear all of it. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. My newest novel, Body More Zero, came out in October of last year, featuring these two gentlemen right here. And my newest novel, the forthcoming novel, which is the first in the Legend of Bill Cassidy, will be coming out hopefully in November of this year. So keep an eye out for updates on that. With that said, let's jump into the topic, updating with the most important story at the top of it. Maybe you remember the story from last time about the OpenAI engineer whistleblower who was going to speak in court and was found dead well, there have been some updates to that. Actually, they happened fairly quickly. From James Leigh, a 26-year-old ex-OpenAI engineer whistleblower in major lawsuits, billions at stakes, dead under mysterious circumstances, suicide or foul play. Here's everything we know so far about the tragic death of Suchar Balaji and many questions that demand answer. Suchar Balaji joined OpenAI in 2020, believing in its potential to do good, but over time became concerned over its use of copyrighted materials to train AI. He left in August of 2024 and 2 months later publicly accused OpenAI of violating U.S. copyright laws. His final warning on October 23, 2024, Suchar Balaji dropped a bombshell revelation that threatens not just OpenAI's financial future, but the entire profit-driven AI industry, a proof that ChatGPT pulls up to 94% of its responses from copyrighted sources. More on this later. An apparent suicide less than a month later, Balaji was dead. According to San Francisco police, officers went to Balaji's San Francisco apartment for a wellness check, and upon arrival, they found a deceased male. The medical examiner's office concluded no evidence of foul play. But the crime scene told a different story. Multiple pools of blood suggesting movement or a struggle. Hair under the bathroom door, displaced items, floss, earbuds, a toppled trash can, no suicide note. Does that sound like suicide to you? And we've got images accompanying it. The days before his death, Suchar celebrated his 26th birthday on a trip to Catalina Island with friends. He was described as upbeat, sharing plans for a new AI startup. He spoke with his parents hours before his death. Nothing seemed amiss. Here is an investigative journalist, Real George Webb, who was on the site at Balaji's apartment, describing how Suchar may have been struck from behind before being forced to kneel in his bathroom and then ultimately shot at point-blank range. Balaji's laptop and backup drives, potential key evidence for lawsuits against OpenAI, were seized by San Francisco Police Department. Why would suicide warrant confiscation of such devices? Reports also suggest his apartment was ransacked. For someone searching for that drive, could Balaji, if there was murder, there must be a motive. Could Balaji's death be tied to the booming AI industry? Did his whistleblowing threaten OpenAI or other global rivals who stood to lose billions or even trillions if the evidence surfaced? Balaji's whistleblowing focused on ChatGPT's use of copyrighted data, as OpenAI's shift to for-profit lawsuits by the New York Times and other alleged copyright violations that, if proven, would cost billions and cripple its dominance in the AI market. Balaji's whistleblowing threatens more than OpenAI. It exposed practices like data scraping that powers rivals like China's DeepSeek, with trillions at stake in AI race, was silencing him a way to protect the industry's secrets and its profit. They ruled Balaji's death a suicide almost instantly, seized key devices, and withheld evidence. With Sam Altman on San Francisco's mayoral transition team, are big tech and AI's interests squashing the investigation. Credit to Real Gregory Webb for shedding light on this case, to Suture's brave parents for their courage in seeking truth. We owe it to them and to Suture to see this through and demand justice. So this will be linked in the description below if you want to go through all of this stuff. On top of this, oh yeah, and the medical examiner David Serrano Sewell, who inexplicably tossed a human skull while rushing to clean up before his investigation, same guy who just handled the OpenAI whistleblower autopsy, same dude who determined Suchar Balaji's 26 dead by suicide. So there's a lot of sketch going on in San Francisco and the Silicon Valley that needs to be looked into for real. Fortunately, the parents of ex-OpenAI researcher Suchar Balaji has requested FBI investigate his death. Ed Newton-Rex spoke to Suchar a few times in the months before his death, and he hoped to request that they would meet. His parents don't believe he died by suicide. They report that he had no history of mental illness and no suicide note was left. Given the circumstances, a full investigation is clearly needed. On top of that, eventually, shortly after, so that was posted on December 29th when they were demanding an investigation. Come January 18th, apparently the San Francisco police changed Suchar Balaji's case from closed to open and active investigation. So that is currently underway, theoretically, hopefully enough pressure, and hopefully we get some people to put pressure on them to investigate this, because the area, I don't know, all opinions, reads corrupt to me. And it looks like I'm not the only one that is like, this looks like a corrupt situation that is trying to protect billions after breaking the law and knowingly breaking the law, as people for years have been saying, this is law breaking, don't do this. And they just go, well, you don't have proof. Well, you don't have proof. Proof after proof after proof has been laid and said this is going to catch up to you. And they're like, nah, it won't. It's catching up to you. But they think that they can silence everybody and then just keep gaslighting people that this is not what is happening. It's very sick. It's very corrupt. And I remember every single one of you, if you're still here, saying, who tried to tell me that this was not theft, that this was not copyright violation. Show me the copyright violation. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And they're allegedly killing people over it, possibly killing people over it to keep it hidden. I called it evil in the past and got laughed at for it. Gonna rethink yourselves? Over here with Ed Newton-Rex, the EU's planned broad copyright exceptions for GenAI training with opt-out rights, but very few ever opt out, is likely in breach of international treaties on copyright protection like the Berne Convention. So last time I talked about generative AI is the UK was currently voting or preparing to vote on how to manage copyright and generative AI, and they were going to go in favor of the generative AI people and just steamroll copyrights and property and intellectual property. Well, that's what they voted in favor of. However, what's happening over there with this, well, you can just scrape anything, is likely going to violate international law, international treaties, and create issues with other countries. So they may have to rethink this. And again, it goes into just how big this issue is and how much is being ignored for what? The profit of these people, the transfer of wealth and the control of these creative properties being given over to these few companies that are already rich. And that is what's happening. Writers, musicians, actors, and other creators strongly oppose upending copyright laws in favor of AI companies, as suggested in the UK's AI Opportunities Action Plan. As Kate Moss says, seeking economic growth cannot be on the basis of theft of our work. Over here, you have British novelists criticize government over AI theft. Osman, who sold more than 10 million books with his Thursday Murder Club series, said a lot of the issues around AI are complex, but this one is very simple. If you want to use copyrighted works, you ask permission, and then you pay for it. Anything else is theft, and anyone arguing for anything else is harming the UK's creative industry. This is at The Guardian. Best-selling novelist spoke out after Keir Starmer a national drive to make the UK one of the great AI super superpowers and endorse a 50-point action plan that included changes to how technology firms can use copyrighted text and data to train their models. Ministers had been consulting on whether to allow the major tech companies to hoover up massive quantities of writing, music, and other creative works unless copyright holders actively opt out. It is seen as a way of supercharging the growth of AI companies in the UK. Huge volumes of data are needed to train AI models, and technology firms claim copyright laws create uncertainty, which risks holding back development. Of course, they argue what things they don't know or don't care. But I'm going to say don't care because they have been well informed that it's a copyright violation by people who work in these fields, and it doesn't matter to them because they're tech and they don't care. They want the money. But creatives want AI companies to pay and were dismayed when the Prime Minister said that he backed calls for systems similar to the EU, which require copyright holders to opt out of the trawling process. Creative Rights in AI Coalition, which includes industry groups in music, publishing, journalism, TV, cinema, and photography, on Tuesday called Starmer's position deeply concerning and called on ministers to continue to consider their case to keep current copyright system. Last month, Paul McCartney warned that AI could just take over, and Kate Bush joined Stephen Fry and Hugh Bonneville in signing a petition warning that unlicensed use of creative works for training generative AI is a major unjust threat to the livelihoods of people behind those works and must not be permitted. It's literally just taking your stuff. And they're like, no, but we're using it differently. No, you're not. You're saying it's to take over and replace those. Moss told The Guardian, using AI responsibly and well and being a world leader, all of this I agree with. It just cannot be at the expense of the creative industry. It is supporting one type of growth and destroying another part of growth, and it cannot be on the basis of theft of our work. Osman, who has sold more than 10 million books with his Thursday Murder Club series, said a lot of the issues around AI are complex, but this one is very simple. If you want to use copyrighted works, you ask permission, and then you pay for it. Anything else is theft, and anyone arguing anything else is harming the UK's creative industry. Monday's AI action plan, written by a venture capitalist, Matt Clifford, called for reform for the UK's text and data mining regime so that it is at least as competitive as the EU. The UK is falling behind. EU rules require copyright holders to opt out of the trawling process. This approach is opposed by many creatives who insist that they should be automatically paid for use of their materials. In its response to the action plan, the government said that it'll ensure a competitive copyright regime that supports both the AI sector and the creative. Stamer said, I'm happy to endorse it and take recommendations forward. Joe Twist, the chief executive of the British phonographic industry, which represents the recorded music trades, said AI's potential can be realized by growing both the creative and AI sectors without resorting to destroying the UK's status as a creative superpower. She said that it was not clear why AI firms should be allowed to plunder the creative industries taking music for their own profit without authorization or compensation. The Department for Science, Innovation and Technology has been contacted for comment. Moss said that 5 of her novels, including Labyrinth, that I spent 15 years researching, planning, writing, rewriting, editing, and publishing, have been illegally scraped to help train large language models. She drew an analogy with a thief in a corner shop who steals all of the Mars bars, and when confronted by the shopkeeper says, but you didn't tell me you didn't want me to steal your Mars bars. That's essentially what the opt-out is. What is being proposed is that creators will have to spend their time hunting down AI companies to see if their work has been stolen. It will take time away from all of us doing the job that we do. It will mean that individuals are less likely to be able to make a living out of their craft, and consequently, everything will simply be diluted. It'll be a copy of a copy of a copy. We will have very little original work. The AI action plan recommendations come despite the government consultation on how copyright should be handled. Still has 6 weeks to run. Ed Newton-Rex, a former AI executive now campaigning for AI firms to pay copyright fees, said, it's clear that the government has made up its mind and will upend copyright law in favor of AI companies, which throws the consultation into total disarray. If this goes ahead, the government will be handing the life work of this country's creators to AI companies so they can outcompete those creatives. The government spokesman said, current uncertainty about how copyright laws apply to the AI is holding back the creative industries and AI sectors creators from realizing their full potential, and that cannot continue. That's why we've launched a consultation to develop a balanced framework that work for both of the sectors. We'll only move forward once we're confident we have a practical plan that delivers with each of the objectives: increased control for rights holders to help them license their content, access to high quality materials to train leading AI models in the UK, and more transparency for right holders from AI developers. What happens when this all comes crumbling down and they just continually get sued? The law just takes forever to happen, but stuff is happening. Over here with The Guardian, Labour's AI plan could be good for British people, except the creatives it'll throw under the bus. As we know, it just happened. It's about taking the jobs, taking the money away, taking the work away, the experiences away, the trained skills away from these people. Carla Ortiz says, make no mistake, generative AI companies will try and dismantle all protections that creatives have over their work in the US too. They know that they can't win lawsuits because they broke the law, but they can try and change the laws. Folks, prepare yourselves to fight tooth and nail, as we know, because Suchir had to pay with his life in order to combat this. And there's an article here listed in the comments. OpenAI presents its preferred version of AI regulation in a new blueprint. OpenAI's blueprint also addresses copyright as it relates to AI, a hot button topic. The company makes a case that AI developers should be able to use publicly available information, including copyrighted content, to develop models. So what they're going to try to do is to lobby lawmakers to abolish copyright law for their benefit, not all copyright law. So like you, the regular person, are still not allowed to steal and pirate, but they can pirate everything and repackage it and sell it back to you. Ed Newton Rex says, I agree with Matthew Clifford on a lot of the proposal in the UK AI's Opportunities Action Plan released today, but his recommendations to reform copyright laws based on misunderstanding will be terrible for creative industries and is unnecessary to the aim of making a UK a leader in AI. Matt repeats the mistaken claim that there is uncertainty around current UK copyright laws. There is no uncertainty. Commercial generative AI training on copyrighted works without license is illegal. He says the current position is hindering the growth of our creative industries, but the creative industries say the opposite. They are united in their opposition to the government's proposal to change the copyright law. He says that EU's approach, where creators have to opt out of GenAI training, gives rights holders control over how their work is used, but it doesn't. Opt-out schemes can't be used to successfully opt out of training, and they are hugely unfair to creators. We should not emulate this poorly thought through approach. He says we must reform copyright law to compete in AI. This is not the case. We can be leaders in AI without throwing creative industry under the bus. We should strive to be the home of responsible AI rather than legalizing theft to appease AI companies. Unfortunately, UK Labour government has already agreed to implement Matt's proposal, i.e. to upend copyright law in favor of AI companies. It seems the consultation on AI and copyright, which is still ongoing, has some key context no one was aware of. The government has already made its decision and copyright law will be changed. It's incredibly sad to see UK Labour listen to tech CEOs and VCs over the country's creators. It should hear and seriously consider everyone's views. As it is about to hand the life's work of the country's creators to AI companies for free so that the AI companies can outcompete them. It is quite simply going to legalize theft, and only for these companies. Thomas Hewitt-Jones says the decimation of UK creative arts has begun. Hearing reports of artists giving up their careers because of today's announcement from the government, which favors AI and big tech over the protections of the value of copyright. It's a sad day. If I was at the beginning of my career, I'd be giving up at this point too, frankly. That was posted January 13th after the decision to say your stuff is not protected from these people. As we go to the Department of Science and Innovation, they are claiming that artificial intelligence will unleash across the UK's government's game-changing AI Opportunities Action Plan, turbocharging economic growth, creating jobs, making the UK #1 place for AI firms to invest. It says creating jobs, however, the whole point that they keep saying with this is that you can hire less people, where you don't have to pay these people. So it's not about creating jobs, it's about pillaging the creative arts to put the money from the arts into the AI, into the tech industry. And these tech people have zero respect for the arts. They never had. And you could see it in the way that they have conversed and talked about the creative arts from the very beginning. If you go back to look at any of my other videos on this subject covering these people, here is the founder of the AI company of Suno, who says it's not really enjoyable to make music now. I think the majority of people don't enjoy the majority of time spent making music. And you can apply that to any of the creative arts that people have to spend time on.
Say a company that makes the current crop of creators 10% faster or makes it 10% easier to make music. If you want to impact the way 1 billion people experience music, you have to build something for 1 billion people. And so that is first and foremost giving everybody the joys of creating music. And this is a huge departure from how it is now. It's not really enjoyable to make music now. People enjoy.
Why do you say that?
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. You need to get really good at an instrument or really good at a piece of production software. I think the majority of people don't enjoy the majority of the time they spend making music.
Do you not think that's like running? It is hard to run. It is painful to run. You don't particularly enjoy it, but you love running. And you get good at it, and you get better at it, and you speak to the runners, and they love running.
Most people drop out of that pursuit because it was hard. And so I think that the people that you know that run, this is a highly biased selection of the population that fell in love with it.
I'm jumping back and forth.
Loser. I don't have any better words, any nicer words than calling this guy a loser. I don't enjoy this thing, but I want to be recognized for working on this thing, even though it's very difficult. Lowering the bar so that you can cheat and so you can pretend that you're doing this. No wonder Elon Musk faked playing video games, because these people don't respect any of this work. They don't respect any of the skill. They're egotists that just wants to be applauded for stuff that they won't do, for things that they won't practice, never practice. He listened to the way they even talked about the runners, is he didn't respect the runners with their practice and their ascent into being in that top percentile of runners who enjoy it. Yes, it's hard. Yes, not everybody can do it or will want to do it, but to take it away or to pretend that, no, you could just get in a car and now you're basically a runner. Over here with Mong Thuta. I like the core strategy of the AI industry is trying to convince everyone that you hate being alive and doing anything. That your only desire as a human being is to put out product and make money and get likes on social media. That you don't enjoy any actual activities. And that's just going to make you more and more depressed because you're not doing anything. And you know you're not doing anything. Ilya Biasin says perfectly sums up the AI evangelist problem at large. I want to be seen and valued as a creative person, but I don't actually want to learn and practice the craft. This creates a resentment that must be resolved, but without me having to work. Catherine Berry says OpenAI asserts in its core filing that AI has a, quote, right to learn. Ponder for a moment. They are claiming that what's ultimately a computer program has rights. And in this original piece with Ed Norton, which we'll get to, Catherine responds, I'd add that the problem isn't just that they want AI to learn from publicly available works, which it mimics, usually without credit, but they want to replace its source of those works, human researchers or authors, entirely. This takes a value created by humans and diverts the profits of it from the creators to the corporation behind AI. It's the equivalent of techno-slavery. So if we are talking about slavery here, if we go up here where it says, programs have rights, then what any of them are doing using AI, what anybody using these AI programs is doing is a violation of the law, because you have now enslaved a creature, a thing, which has rights for your profit. So is that really the argument that you want to make? Charlie Bits over here says, those people are hungry for your creative works, your art, your writings. They gleefully want to take from you what you have created so that they can profit from it. No original ideas of their own. May they lose everything that they have built or have to work and have to work an honest job that they hate. And over here you have two people arguing over how intellectual property should be abolished or IP laws should be changed. You do have to wonder how amazing AI would be today, like almost instantly, if copyright was abolished. I am not saying to do it. I am just saying you can feel this constraint in the quality of generative AI, and I think intuit how amazing it would be absent that constraint. You don't have to go full abolition, just make it something reasonable like 20 years. There are approximately 0 creative works made based on the amount of revenue that they will draw 20 years from now, so it would not diminish the incentive effect for new creations at all. Yes, it would, because what that is saying is that whatever company should just wait 20 years before stealing somebody's work and not having to credit them for it. They will still be alive when Hollywood is making a movie out of creative work that is no longer under copyright because they just waited for the copyright to run out while the author is still alive. These people are just selfish, monsters. If you tell people that GenAI is a tool rather than a replacement for human creativity, show them this new data from Harvard Business Review. ChatGPT reduced writing jobs by 30% and coding jobs by 20%. AI image generators reduced image creation jobs by 17%. These numbers are not rebounding. The effects are bigger and faster than any other form of automation. It is self-evident that generative AI competes with the work it is trained on and the people behind the work. But there is a now growing body of evidence to support. So if they say, well, it's just a tool, it's not a tool, it's a replacement. Just like importing somebody to do slave labor, it is a replacement. It is meant to not pay the people doing the work. And this is proven that this is what they want by actions that they have already taken. Ed Newton Rex says unsealed court documents today suggest that Meta approved the use of pirated work to train AI because they wanted to compete with other AI companies they suspected to be doing the same. It is infuriating that governments are considering legalizing IP theft to benefit AI companies when this kind of evidence is emerging. Meta torrented LibGen to train AI. So it's not even just in unsealed documents of a maybe, it's a definitely. Plaintiff counsel alleged that Meta effectively engaged in another form of copyright infringement by torrenting LibGen and thus helping to spread its contents. Meta also tried to conceal its activities, counsel alleges, by minimizing the number of files it uploaded. According to the filing, Meta's head generative AI, Ahmad Al-Dal, cleared the path for torrenting LibGen, brushing aside Bashlikov's reservations that doing so could legally be not okay. According to the plaintiff's counsel, Meta engineer Nikolai Bashlikov, who works on the Llama research team, wrote the script to remove copyright info, including the words copyright and acknowledgments, from ebooks in LibGen. Separately, Meta allegedly stripped copyright markers from the science journal's articles and source metadata in the training dataset used for Llama. So they're already doing this. They already know that they're violating copyright, which is now why they're switching the goalpost to, well, we're going to change the law so that it is not a copyright violation, or so that we have a right to steal when you don't. New from Ed Newton Rex, newly unredacted court documents suggest that Meta knowingly trained AI models on datasets of pirated works despite some employees' concerns. Employees called it dataset we know to be pirated and said that using it may undermine Meta's negotiations positions with regulations because they're already breaking the law. Meta and other AI developers should be liable regardless of whether the source itself is infringing, but this evidence of willful infringement is indeed damning. Will help the court and jury to see the blackness in Zuckerberg's heart, a toxic tree bear, only poisonous fruit. Meanwhile, this is a must-read indictment of OpenAI's proposal to the US government. It dissects it all: the hubris, the faux patriotism, the China fear-mongering, and the insulting demands to use creative works without consent. OpenAI is now asking policymakers to make it easier for them to scrape visual and text data online and feed it into their machines, highlighting once again that such companies have little regard for copyright or whether you want your content to be used for AI training. You remember when you would go to the movies and before the movies start, I don't know if they still have these showing, because I don't go to the movies very often. But you remember when they would have the commercial before the movie starts that's like, you wouldn't pirate a car, would you? So are you going to pirate a movie? They're going to feed you this stuff from this area while they're openly stealing from you. Dubbed AI in America, OpenAI's economic blueprint, the 15-page document outlines the company's vision for what the US policymakers must do to ensure artificial intelligence industry flourishes in the country, comparing it to its early days of automotive industry. Except the early days of automotive industry didn't steal from other industries to make it work. Overflowing with pseudo-patriotism and attempts to appeal to Americans' emotions by labeling their vision the democratic AI, OpenAI's proposal calls for direct federal intervention to avoid state-by-state tangles of roads and rules, likely referring to California AI Transparency Act introduced in September of 2024, which, among other things, forces AI developers to disclose the data used to train their models, all while stirring fear by repeating over and over again, if action isn't taken, the nefarious Chinese Communist Party will beat the US. So they're crying to the federal government to get in the way of the states that want to sue them for violating the law, which they're also violating, federal law with their copyright infringement. The US government can uniquely mobilize and coordinate experts, especially with those access to classified threat intelligence, to work directly with the frontier labs on national security related evaluations and mitigations, the company writes. In return, these companies would receive preemptive preemption from state-by-state regulations and the types of risks that the same national security agencies would handle. What sort of thing are you risking for national security when you were ripping off artists internationally? Like, answer me this. What is the security risk that you think that you deserve a break on? It is literally just manipulation. We believe that building enough infrastructure is not just vital for ensuring that AI around the world is based on US rather than China-based technology. It is an unmissable opportunity to catalyze a reindustrialization of the US, reads the document. Successful nations turn resources into competitive advantages. In the AI era, chips, data, and energy and talent are the resources that will underpin continued US leadership. And as with the mass production of the automobile, marshaling these resources will create widespread economic opportunity and reinforce our global competitiveness. Yeah, so this whole article will be in the description if you want to read it yourself, because it's just lip service to be manipulative. Why? Because there is a lot of money involved in what is going on right now. OpenAI admits it needs vastly more money than it thought. Profitability is right around the corner. Please give us another $7 trillion. This isn't a scam, we swear. We're not losing constantly. Scroll down here, it says, you see the news, a Chinese AI company has just released a free open source model as good as or better than O1 on most tested benchmarks and trained for a small fraction of the cost. Between that and Llama, I need someone to explain to me the path to profitability for OpenAI / Anthropic. Reed Southern says, OpenAI is screwed in so many ways. I'm just waiting to see the first domino drop. Like, weird. No wonder they are killing people, allegedly, because it looks like they're in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Now it is not just the arts that we need to talk about, because the AI generative garbage scraping and the over-reliance that companies are having on this garbo is not only destroying jobs, it's destroying livelihoods, it's destroying people and opportunities for the bottom dollar of the corporations. If you thought people were mad enough about United Healthcare already, there's more. Uber for nursing, how an AI-powered gig model is threatening healthcare. You thought it was bad already. The gig economy's labor model and its algorithmic management technologies now have a foothold in one of the largest labor sectors of the country, healthcare. On-demand nursing companies such as CareRev, Clipboard Health, ShiftKey, and ShiftMed have promised hospitals more control and nurses more flexibility. Through original interviews with 26 gig nurses and nursing assistants, this brief finds that these apps encourage nurses to work for less pay, fail to provide certainty about scheduling and the amount or nature of the work, take little to no accountability for worker safety, and can threaten patients' well-being by placing nurses in unfamiliar clinical environments with no onboarding or facility training. On-demand nursing platforms are also using the Uber playbook to lobby state legislators in an attempt to exempt themselves from existing labor regulations. In the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, nurses have fled the profession as a result of poor working conditions, creating what have incorrectly identified as a nursing shortage. As gig nursing platforms falsely promise to empower workers and meet their needs, it is up to legislators, policymakers, civil leaders, and community organizers to act to solve real problems at the root of this crisis. Ashley, a 31-year-old certified nursing assistant in rural Pennsylvania, has worked in hospitals and nursing homes through the ShiftKey app. Though Ashley has worked on the app for the last 2 years, there's a lot that she doesn't know about it, like how the company allocates shifts. She is not the only one in the dark. In the gig nursing world, there is zero transparency about how jobs are algorithmically allocated or automatically scheduled. Different shifts will show up on different workers' phones, often for different amounts of pay. On the same day, at the same hour, in the same hospital, 2 different gig nurses can be paid different amounts by the same app. The gig nursing industry looks more like a black box than a clear process or a fair set of rules. The industry's opaque and personalized pay structures creates what Vina Dubal termed algorithmic wage discrimination, a kind of discrimination in which workers are paid different hourly amounts based on ever-changing calculations and informational asymmetry. Gig nurse apps may determine pay by what the firm knows about how much a nurse was willing to accept for a previous assignment, how often the bids for shifts or how much credit card or other kinds of debts they might hold. These uncertainties combine to create frustrating and precarious conditions for workers who rely on these apps. This is so sick. And this is like a way of indentured servitude almost, where it's like, hey, we know all of your background data, so now we're going to leverage it against you so that we can pay you even less because you're desperate, aren't you? I didn't even know that nurses were in like an Uber type situation. And it is lowering the wages and upping the risks and making fewer people go into that field, while also exposing both the patients and the nurses into these situations. Full article will be listed down below. That is frightening. Not only that, you also have Amazon's first official fallout. I mean, much less serious than healthcare being generated and being manipulated. But Amazon's first official Fallout TV show artwork is an AI-looking eyesore. And you scroll down here and they've got examples of stuff that's not even fully rendered, like there's a disjointed tree coming out of this sign. Or there's the woman's legs on the left and she has 3 of them and one disappears into a white flower. Or the red taxi near the front is all backwards. The headlights and the hood are in the rear while the steering wheel is in the front, as you can see here. The central boulevard with the pedestrians is also confusing. The sidewalk is as wide as the street, and then there are the cars on the other side of it going in the same direction. All parked going that way, all going that way instead of the other way. Plus, you go further into the background, the cars get messier and messier and appear to be alternating patterns of blue and red, like they were stacked on top of one another and then stretched on the horizon. It's these companies that have the money to pay people that just don't want to, because they want as much money for themselves. You've got the stockholders and the CEOs who make millions of dollars a year that don't want to spare any money for the little guy when they could be paying normal people, artists who work in these fields, livable wages, but they would just rather throw money into these tech companies so they never have to pay people again. It's theft. That's all that it is. John Lamb says ethics are the biggest concern for generative AI integration, as they should be. It's what's giving companies pause before pulling the trigger. Read the full article, where it says more than half, 56% of businesses, are delaying major investments in generative AI until there is a clarity on AI standards and regulations, according to the recent survey from IBM Institute for Business Value. At least 72% say that they are willing to forego generative AI benefits due to ethics concern. And this is from ZD Net, why ethics is becoming the biggest challenge. Obviously, we see with all this stuff going on, and it don't really look good when a whistleblower, dies just before they in a mess non-suicide, just before he speaks out. So, OpenAI failed to deliver Media Manager, their opt-out mechanism for AI training, by their target of 2025. It seems not to have been an internal priority. It would likely be widely rejected by creators anyway, as it unfairly shifts the burden of controlling AI training onto creators. Copyright owners do not have an obligation to go out and preemptively tell others not to infringe on their work before the infringement occurs. That's kind of the given, is I own this, you ask permission to use it. That's where it is. Its proposal by OpenAI may be more about PR. Most creators would never even hear about it, let alone use it. So there is that article from TechCrunch if you're interested in reading about how OpenAI failed to deliver its opt-out tool as it promised, because OpenAI doesn't freaking care. It was lip service to tell people to calm down. We're doing something, we care. No, they're just buying time to see if they can get out. It's like, it reminds me of my father. I don't even like to call him my father because he never filled that position. And for me, dad and father is a position that you are for your family. You have to earn it. You have to be it. You don't just get it because you donated sperm to the situation, as the most clear way of putting it, but it's the easiest way to express who this is. So when my father left the family, he chose to leave the family. He cheated multiple times, pretty much the entirety of the marriage. Eventually, when he left, he was given the choice to stay and fix the family, or to go and live with his new girlfriend, but he could not continue to see his girlfriend and live in the house with the kids, which we were all under 18 at the time, and he chose to go and live with his girlfriend. So then that left my mom with 4 kids under 18 to take care of. She hadn't been in the workforce for 20 years because she'd been a stay-at-home mother, as was requested by the husband. Well, he refused to pay child support when we were all living in that house, because he would have preferred us to be kicked out on the than to live in that house. Because he wanted to punish my mother. For what? She didn't do anything. He was the one that betrayed. So he refused to pay child support and continued to go back to the courts as the child support rate to get it lowered. He also went from his 6-figure job into a $13 an hour janitorial job so that he could return to the judge and say, look, this is how much I make annually. I can't pay that back end side of the child support that I owe for those 4 kids. And so then the judge lowered the child support payment. And then as soon as my sister turned 18, he got his 6-figure job back. The damage was already done. We'd already struggled. He refused to take care of his own kid. And he did that because he was dubious. And that's what these people are doing. It's the same thing. They know what they're doing. They are manipulating the system because they are dubious, bad people. Apple continues to innovate with Apple Intelligence. Apple halts AI features that made iPhones hallucinate about the news. Apple Intelligence features that falsely said Pete Hegseth had been fired and Luigi Maggione shot himself will be temporarily going away. So again, hallucinating information, which is just it giving inappropriate information because it just sucks up, or inaccurate information because it just sucks up whatever and then gives out whatever. It's all just repackaged bad information and it doesn't know what's true or not, but it's going to give you fake news, and you're not going to know it's fake news because you're just trusting it. Not only that, Siri unintentionally recorded private convos. Apple agrees to pay $95 million. So Apple caught, when they say they have a right to learn, they also believe that they have a right to listen to everything that you do, record everything that you do, everything that you type, and then to sell it. Not one of these corporations is your friend. You're a little more than a way for them to print money, and this is how your loyalty is rewarded. They're selling you. They think they own you. They make money off of you. That's also why they think they own everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you create. And it's not just Apple. Google is now forcing AI on workspace users and charging you more for it, whether you use it or not. So they will be going through all of your documents that you keep on the workspace. This stuff isn't even tested. The fact that they are rushing all of this stuff to be in all of these websites and programs and apps as much as possible just tells me how desperate they are to, one, make money off it, two, to steal as much of your data as they can so that they can sell it back later, because they know that it's going to come to an end. So it's rushing the door to get as much in as they can while the floodgates are open. Not only that, you have other sorts of grifters also taking advantage of this stuff. Here you have Chuck Dixon, who has pretended to be part of the indie comics space, working in different indie spheres like Rippaverse, where he has also worked for the industry. He is selling out using generative AI comics as well. Why? Because he's a hack. Total opinion. But if you use generative AI and you're an artist, you're a hack. You are shoving the ladder down on the next generation of artists, of writers. You're destroying the industry on fire. And personally, like if you go and watch the Rippaverse video that Monty and I did here on the channel for Alpha Core, we both felt like his comic was phoned in. We both felt like he had no respect for the audience. This proves to me that he has no respect for the audience. And personal opinion here, so don't take it as anything. It feels like he is mad at the industry because he doesn't feel like he was given what he thinks that he deserves. And so it's burn it down. Who cares? Gonna make money off of his name. That's what it feels like to me. There is no reason to do this if you care about the comics. If you care about the industry, let people follow up after you. Just stop making comics. Go do something else. Because there are people that love the work, that love the art, that love the audience, that love the connection, that love telling stories and reading stories and connecting to the stories. I love talking about the stories. Whether I like them or not, I enjoy talking about the stories. I enjoy talking about what people see and what people make and what people spend their time on. And this is fraudulent scam work. And people are trusting your brand name. And this is what you do. Disgusting grift. We were right when we said he didn't care, when it was a disgrace to the industry, when it was a disgrace to his employer, who trusted him to do a good job, and he just signed it off, and people trusted him because of his name, because of good stuff he did in the past. It's over. He doesn't care, and this is evidence of that. So you've also, along with that, you've also got these companies making a bunch of fake profiles, fake creations. You know why? Because if they are the ones created, this kind of goes with the SoundCloud, not SoundCloud, of the, is it SoundCloud? Doing their thing, where they had the fake musician. Because think of YouTube, where it pays the creators for making content if they make enough views. Well, if you have these fabricated profiles, fabricated videos that belong to the corporations, then they don't have to pay the content creators. They get to keep all of the revenue for themselves. That's the point of this stuff. And it is also the point to manipulate and lie, because why else would you make this? What good is this? This isn't somebody's opinion, unless it is somebody pretending authenticity of another person. So it's all marketing. It's an AI market. Who likes to even deal with marketers? Nobody. But like, I talk to people at tables when I go to conferences, when I go to markets like I did on Saturday. I want to talk to people. I want information from people. I don't want a computer system from a company that doesn't even think I'm worth somebody's time to try to sell me shit. But you let me know. Do you like this idea when you call into some place and it's not even a person talking to you, but it's somebody pretending? I don't think people do, because during the time that this was all coming out, you also had Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram and a bunch of other things, who were discovered for having a bunch of AI generated profiles on Instagram and Facebook, and people didn't like it and people stormed it. And so Facebook and Meta ran to delete them because people were spamming them. Quote, AI hype, where tech executives tell us that generative AI is inevitable and is definitely going to change everything, when all evidence suggests that people don't want this. Meta's AI profiles are indistinguishable from terrible spam that took over Facebook. Everybody keeps saying, get this out of my face. And the companies are like, you're going to take it. Everybody's like, no. Nina Turner, this is genuinely weird and concerning. What and who is this for? We should be questioning why big tech companies want to create AI profiles. Why? We already talk about like a false reality. People want to follow people. People want to connect with somebody. This is just, if anything, it's a manipulation tactic to make you feel like you're being heard, to feed you an illusion of somebody that's not there, to trick you and to feed you what they want you to hear so they can sell you more stuff, so they can get you to do what they want you to do. What other reason is there for these fake profiles to pretend to be people and by corporations? Because now they don't have to hire a spokesman and they can directly tell you what they want you to think after they manipulate you. Meta scrams to delete its own AI accounts after backlash intensifies. Nobody wants this stuff. Except the companies that have money to be made off it, or the individuals that have money to be made off it. Because I still see authors that say, no, it's okay if I use an AI generated cover. It's okay if I use an AI generated display picture on Twitter. It doesn't hurt anybody, while knowing where the data set comes from. You're trading in other artists for your benefit. And it's disgusting. The internet, the artificial internet, is a megalomania's paradise. They will reduce human content until it becomes invisible, while at the same time making visible the narrative that best suits each big tech. It is a situation similar to the current one, but polished without the rough edges. So it's a manipulation tactic to sell you stuff, to put you in an echo chamber, to manipulate you into thinking in certain ways, to make it impossible to find people who think a certain way, to explore ideas, to connect with other people. And you will not realize when you are being manipulated to that extent. It's a control thing. Not only that, so much of this stuff is so false and it's losing. Oh my gosh. So Sam Yang, I love his art. I have his art book. It's so pretty. I'll have to bring it in here to show off in a video at some point, because it is so pretty. Follow Sam Yang. He's delightful. He's a great person to learn from. His art is beautiful. But he did a video on how, he's done like 2 videos, I think, at least, on how Pinterest has been ruined by generative AI, because it's so full of garbage that you can't even do research on it. You can't research poses, you can't research people, you can't research clothing or time periods anymore. And this is also further evidence of that. This image just shared by an Instagram account with 760,000 followers is not a real 1960s photo, but an AI creation. Where's the harm in it? Let's see how wide this pollution has spread in the next post. I had to look at Google for exact matches of this photo, and this is the result mostly just in the last couple of weeks. Yes, Facebook does say year here, but when you click on the post, you realize that Google is confused when new and old Facebook posts share a page. I think this is the source. He made a few more, some of which are also spreading like oil. Yeah. And this matters when you're trying to do research on outfits, when you're trying to do research on history, but you have people making up false history, have people making up false images and moments that will be used, like you might be using it for a meme. It doesn't matter, because nefarious people will not. And why this has not been regulated when they've been they cracked down and took down TikTok so fast, but they're not doing anything about this for years. And this is by far more dangerous and more violations to the privacy laws of our country. Insane. Meanwhile, speaking of grifting and hack artists of sorts, let's not even call them artists. They're just scammers. If any of you read Casey Crow, who writes dark erotica, who writes porn, know that that author uses generative AI, and they're not the only one. So this author was caught because in their book, they left a prompt. Please tell me that I'm reading this wrong. Chapter 2 of this appears to have an AI note left in it. Does this mean that this book was AI written? Casey Crown's dark obsession. It is a writing prompt. You get in here and you've got certainly, here is an enhanced version of your passage, making Elena more relatable and injecting additional humor while providing a brief, sexy description of Grigory. Changes are highlighted in bold for clarity. Learn to do it yourself. Revision is like the funnest thing anyway. These are just people that want to rush stuff out to make a bunch of money. The author then responded theoretically by saying, hello, everyone. This is Casey Crown using my PA's Facebook, the PA. But firstly, I want to say that I understand your frustration. To think that an author that you have enjoyed reading his AI-generated books is understandably a cause for concern. I can assure everyone that all of my books are written by me, and I've been writing my books before AI came out. I've recently started the practice of using AI to make very minor edits. To be honest, I'm still learning how to best use AI to make my readers' experience better, but I can assure you that keeping my original voice strong is of utmost importance. I hope that you can understand that enhancing the reader's experience is my ultimate goal. The last thing that I would want is for my books to not be competitive in the market. Finally, I take full responsibility for the error in the file. So it's not, hey, I used this and it's bad. It's, oh no, I got caught. Oh no, I want to be competitive. I want to make the money. Whoever this is doesn't care about anything but making money. Doesn't care about you, doesn't care about the art form, and it's a disgrace. I have such a bone to pick with people that don't respect the art form, that just see it as gig work. Be ashamed of yourself. Over here with Neil Turkowitz. If I'm going to be letting my imagination run wild, there's no Grok, no Claude, no ChatGPT, no Gemini, no Copilot. Instead, we're living in the world that treasures art and poetry, respects human dignity and self-determination. But I suppose you didn't mean for my imagination to be that wild. Which, that is, like, again, going back to freaking Casey Crown. And like, I'm going through the process right now of writing the draft of the Legend of Bill Cassidy book 1, and I am so excited to get to revision because the revision is going to bump it up, and then to editing the revision after I bump it up with the revision and getting to carve out the scenes more because I know better what I'm doing. I am so excited to just discover the rest of the characters. I have quite a bit of work to still do on it. But I'm hoping by February, I have a draft. I'm so close. But I love the series. I love these characters. And I'm so excited to get to work with them more, to bring them out more, to discover them more, and to make every special touch. Because each of those characters, each of those moments is a special human moment to observe. And it's my imagination that pulls them out. It's my getting to know those characters that pulls them out. If you study art, visual arts, they tell you that the least amount of time is spent on creating the forms. The biggest amount of time is spent on the details. And that is the same with this. So where she goes, well, I'm writing it. It's just that's editing it. That's doing the most work. You put a stick figure into a thing because you did the pose, and then the generative AI finishes it. It made the picture, not you. It's doing the character work, not you. And it is the self-determination and respect of human dignity to not use generative AI to disgrace any of these art forms. It is self-determination to finish the project. Or we're going back to Suno founder guy who goes, I didn't want to learn to do this. I didn't want to spend the time to do this. Okay, you don't respect the people who are going to listen to the music, who are going to read the book, who are going to look at the picture. You don't care. Speaking of, imagination can't go wild. I've talked about this before. Your brain not being able to work, these people not being able to do the bare minimum. Tired of writing image generation prompts? Introducing Described with AI. Just insert a picture and it'll make the prompt for you. Now you don't even have to think. Amazing. They're so lazy. I don't want to say they're so dumb, but you do this to yourself. Kind of shocking how quickly idea has taken hold in the tech and finance sectors that there is no point in learning any skill outside of the ones directly required for your job. You're just going to be a drone. Show up, do your basic job, nothing else. See these arguments about reading text, yes, but also learning basic math and basic computer skills, etc. And the original person says, starting to feel like a big barrier to undergrads reading classics is the dense English in which they are written or translated into. Is there much gained by learning to read high register English, given some of these texts aren't even originally in English? More controversially, is there much difference in how much is learned between a student who reads high register English translated Durkheim versus a student who reads SparkNotes Durkheim? In some cases, might the SparkNotes Durkheim reader actually learn more? Personally, I read a bunch of classics in high register in college. I guess it was fun. I recently ChatGPT'd Aristotle into readable English, finished it around 5 times as fast as a translation, and I felt that I got the main gist of things. IDK, does the pain incurred actually teach much? Yes. You learn how to dissect information. This is something that I tell people, and why I constantly, even though I don't like a book, or no matter how I feel about a book, I encourage people to read the book, and I talk about why I read things the way that I read them, because you're going to read into a situation. You're going to read into a setup. You want to follow the logic from scene to scene to see how action equals consequence, because art is not a singular experience, a singular observation. Is you're going to take different things away depending on who you are, depending on how you read things. There is a benefit because you are learning how to read between the lines. You are learning how to dissect information instead of whatever this is, which is telling you not to think and that you can only get information if it is told straight to you. Who wants to do this? Who wants to dumb themselves down to the point that they can't understand human behavior? And I see it enough, because look at my book reviews where I talk about things. Look at my freaking comment section where some idiots come in thinking that, oh, you only do this because of a political bias, where they ignore the other 150 plus reviews on the channel and have no idea what they're talking about because they can't see anything past their freaking nose. You dumb. Which goes into this. Do normies seriously need to be reminded that skills are developed and not inherited? That just, you're going, oh, well, you're just a good musician and I could never be that because you don't devote the time. Oh, you're a good artist, but I could never be that because you don't focus the time. This goes into the tiny wisdom, how I live without talent. When I was a kid, I knew that I didn't have any talent. I was not the worst in class, but I was never the best either. I joined the football team, but for 3 years in high school, I never got to play in a match. Because of these experiences, I had a low self-esteem. I was easily intimidated by others, and I did not have any self-confidence. When I started working, things remained the same, and I was always the stupidest person in the room. And over the years, I learned that in this life, I am not the main character. I'm not Peter Parker, I'm the person Spider-Man saved. I'm just an extra. I'm not Harry Potter or even Neville. I'm just one of the students at Hogwarts with no name. The talent is something that someone was born with. Unfortunately, I didn't have any. In this world, I am not unique at all. But one day, as I woke up, I hate to feel this way every day, and I want to change my life. I decided that I didn't want to feel this anymore. I want to be proud of who I am. I want to live my life to the fullest. So I stopped comparing myself to others, stopped caring about things I can't control, and focused only on the things that I can control. I don't have a talent, and I will never be talented, but I can be consistent. I can be persistent. I can be stubborn. Stubborn enough to chase my dreams. Stubborn enough to not care about what others think. Stubborn enough to make most of my life. I don't have talent, and I never will be talented, so I work hard. Harder than those with talent, because that's all I can do. All I can do is do my best. Talent is overrated. Don't believe me? Go to the next image. Proof that all you need is consistency, even if nobody cares about what you do, even if you're doing it alone. 31 videos and counting since November of 4. Proof that over time, you'll no longer feel useless, and you will start to enjoy the ride, even the bumpy ones, and you'll stop thinking about other people's opinions. Proof that those shitty first drafts could turn out to be something bigger than you might think. Keep going. The best is yet to come. So there's a reason why I stopped saying you're so talented or thank you for your talent or anything like that. And I talk about skill, because what you're talking about with talent, when you're complimenting the things that you see somebody doing, it is a learned skill. It is something that people practiced. Even if they have an affinity for something, they have still had to practice that thing to get that good at it. So it is not something that you were born with, and you're always going to hold yourself back if you are afraid of failing public. And that also gets into this. I think AI preys on people's fears of being seen as visibly amateurish. I reflect on how before social media, gaming and anime magazines would publish the most crude fan art and cosplay. Now, because of social media, you're always comparing yourself to the best in the world. AI art gives you visibility, but not culpability. Its inherent and obvious unscrupulous project protects you from criticism. It keeps you from insecurities and vulnerabilities. Hell of a bummer if you think about it. But it kind of dovetails with a lot of the inherently contradictory fascist thinking. AI art needs to be seen by its proponents as legitimate because that validates the creator's creativity, but its clear-cut illegitimacy protects their ego. The sad thing is that not long ago, places like DeviantArt were centrally organized social hubs for the celebrations and the so-called democratization of awkward, crappy art, but Twitter and Instagram algorithms seem to have nuked that revelry in creation from orbit. So this is also something, is because I've been sharing my progress as I teach myself how to draw, and it's not great. I have so many issues, and I like look at my work. Sometimes it surprises me that how stuff turns out, but it's still not where I want it to be, and I'm like, I don't know how to get it where I want it to be. But it is a process that you have to struggle through, that you're not necessarily going to be perfect through, that your books, like my books, are not perfect when they first come out. I have issues with Dead End Drive, with where it ended, but I took it as far as I could take it at the time, and I'm still proud of it. I just have things that I would do differently about it, but I still love it, and I think it's a great book, and it never would have made it out if I didn't think that it was legit. I've learned stuff between writing Bodymore 1 and 2 and 3 and 0, and I think 0 is the best book that I've written so far. But now I'm writing, The Legend of Bill Cassidy, which is going to be massive. It is already a thick first book, and all of the books are going to be thick. I think it's an epic. It is a Western epic. And who would have thought, years ago when I started writing, that I'd be working on a Western epic. And it's something different. But it preys on this, but AI does prey on this fear of being amateur. Because what's one of the first things that the AI proponents come at me for when I'm in a video is they insult my art and say that it is garbage and say I can do better than that in 5 seconds. Is they want you to feel bad about yourself. Is they want you to hide yourself. They want you to feel ashamed. They don't understand, or they are projecting their own fear of criticism. They think that that will get you to shut up because it would make them feel shut up. That it would make them feel like they need to shut up and hide. But it's not going to work. It hasn't worked, and it's still not going. Owl at the library. I think some behaviors need to be socially shamed, like using AI to generate a novel or chatbots to write a grocery list. Ceding your mental and creative abilities to a machine is an embarrassing thing, and people should be ashamed to admit to doing it in public. The scariest thing about the world of Fahrenheit 451 is that people could no longer think because they had forgotten how. The advent of AI and the decline of humanities brings the future ever closer. We must resist the temptation to surrender the intellects. The architects of our tech dystopia want you passive spectators. They want fascism without resistance, which makes reading, philosophy, media literacy, the exercise of our critical faculties more important than they've ever been. This is why I continue to encourage you, even if you don't read the books. If you do read the books that I talk about, thank you. Or if you, any of the videos where it's a topic, thank you for participating. But I always want your participation, your read on situations, to think about the situations as they're being presented, or your read on things. And there's not going to be a everybody is wrong or everybody is right. It's going to be we're going to discuss this from our different perspectives of analyzing, of using our brains to keep that intellectual muscle working, because we need. Going down to Sarah Jane Murray, and this is why we have people positively terrified of tech. We need to amplify more voices who are thinking about this completely differently so that people can understand what most people working in AI are up to, and it's not this. El Norte Riquerda says, this is not why I so viscerally reject AI. I am not terrified of it. I'm angry. I'm angry at how it devalues creative and intellectual labor and accelerates its theft, how it steers us toward a consensus of averages, its climate and water impact, and how it hyper enriches billionaires. I really don't care what delusional billionaires think AI is. What scares me is that everyone embraces AI and it isn't terrified at the future of labor exploitation, illiteracy, cultural poverty, surveillance, disconnection, that we joyfully enrich them and impoverish ourselves. And this also pisses me off, is because I constantly see it dismissed, even in my own circles where I talk about generative AI, where people go, well, don't be afraid because generative AI is never going to be as good and do what artists can do. I'm not afraid of it. No, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off at the level of dismissal, at the steal, the theft, and people saying, oh no, just be cool with it because they're never going to be able to do what you do. They're going to be stealing from people. And there are so many creatives in different ways that are dismissing the abuse and exploitation and enrichment of these corporations at the expense of others because it's a different field. So many authors that say, hey, that's just an image though, so it doesn't really affect you. No, shut up. It does. I viscerally reject this stuff because it is an insult to humanity. It's an insult to the soul. And you could call that ridiculous. You could call that over the top. I don't freaking care. I'm sick of people trying to gaslight. There are plenty of people who will tolerate and be part of your use of this stuff and ignore the amounts of evidence of violations and exploitations that's here. Go there. Don't come at me. Don't try to gaslight me. Juan Jose Ponce Vasquez. Nobody asked for it. Stop forcing AI into fucking everything. Everyone hates it. True. Why is it being forced into everything? It's the investment. I can't help but think that it's the investment that they've already got, that they need it there. But let me know what you think. Why is everybody trying to force it into everything so quickly, so massive, till nobody can say no? Meanwhile, we're on to the last couple of things. Don't worry. We're just going to cover this really quickly. AI systems collapse when they scrape AI-generated material. And with no safeguards in place to divide human-made content with machine-made content, this means that AI systems will keep on collapsing without being endlessly rescued by humans. So AI models, with these articles, this article states AI models collapse when trained on recursive. AI models collapse when trained on recursively generated data was among the most influential AI papers of 2024. The development of LLMs is very involved and required large quantities of training data, yet although current LLMs 2, 4, 6, including GPT-3, were trained on predominantly human-generated text, this may change. If the training data of most future models are also scraped from the web, then they will inevitably train on data produced by their own predecessors. In this paper, we investigate what happens when the text produced by or for examples of versions of GPT forms most of the training datasets following the models. What happens to GPT generators, GPT as in increases? We discovered that indiscriminately learning from data produced by other models causes model collapse, a degenerative process whereby, over time, models forget the true underlying data distribution, even in the absence of a shift of this time. So it's going to kill itself by absorbing its own nonsense. That should be a note. Over here, generative AI models memorize their training data, exhibit 31,692. See below are 31 pages of exampled image algorithmically detected in diffusion models and code for regenerating them. So, you know, there's no arguing that they don't. Then finally, with Ewan Morrison, AI is killing the internet and itself. One AI expert and policy advisor has predicted that because of the exponential growth of artificial intelligence adoption, 90% of the internet content will likely be AI generated sometime in 2025. According to Forbes, see the link below, which this will be linked below if you want to look into this. We will cover this next time to discuss, but it's one of the reasons I find it so important to, one, to be personal, two, to talk about the intricacies of work, and to three, to disqualify anything that uses generative AI anywhere. I want to talk to people. I want to see people. I want to promise at least we're having human-to-human contact. So there is all of that. So with that said, those are the topics. That is all of the update for this time. Where is your hope feeling? And a lot of this, it feels like maybe could speedrun being taken down as soon as the lawsuits go through, which it's not looking good, but they're obviously lobbying, and you can't really trust lobbyists, so we'll see what goes there. Let me know what your thoughts are on any of the topics we've talked about today. With that said, looking forward to the conversation down below. Keep the faith. I have the faith. If we're creating things, there is faith and hope for tomorrow. So, there has to be, because we're making things to hopefully be seen. Look forward to The Legend of Bill Cassidy. It's a story of triumph. We are also going to be a story of triumph. You, me, them. With that said, have a great weekend, and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross. Is he in trouble? We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left. Plain black letters read along the wall, "You walked in the corridor." Once that ends, "You chose the dark" is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. "Where the hell am I?" "You're dead, Josephine." Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?